Good morning, DLD. I guess you got your wake-up call already. And I actually wanted to introduce Armin, although Steffi already did this, because I recently read him in a newspaper being introduced as Germany's coolest sociologist.
You didn't mention the pretty face.
The pretty face, yeah, exactly. And on top, vice president also of LMU in Munich. But on top of that, I guess they somehow gave us a hint to sit down. I'm just wondering why that could be the case.
So, how to start?
How to start, yeah.
I wanted to introduce him, but I learned that it's not necessary to introduce Björn here. So I want to say he's one of the most impressive colleagues I ever had, and I'm very glad to talk with you on this stage now.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, I mean, I heard it's going to be wild. To my understanding, it's going to be wild when AI and sociology meet and society meet, because AI and society are moving at a different pace. And I've always been asking myself, like, where this will lead us, why that's the case, and where this will lead us. First off, I see that AI is at a different pace because AI is a general technology, general purpose technology, and at the same time an enabling technology. It's becoming the enabler of future technological progress, kind of the operating system for pretty much all that we are doing. And with that, to me, it seems to be clear that in order to unfold AI's full value, and when it will unfold its full value, you can't just use it to optimize, to tweak certain parts of your business, society, whatever you do, in tiny bits and pieces, but that you need to go full stack, become disruptive for your full business stack or wherever you're going to use it. And with, yeah?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that AI is a part of the society, and it's something that has developed from societal experiences. And I think that we should not separate society and AI. That's the first point. The second point for me is that AI is not only a technology. It's a challenge for our, Steffi, you mentioned as a Menschsein, the shape of human being, the shape of what we are doing with our own capacities. And our capacity is to recombine different forms of meaning of something that we call with a very, very big notion as culture. And I think that culture is changing by this AI revolution because we can face that something that is always attributed to us as human beings now is a technological thing that we can see that we have an outcome which seems to be something that stems from human experience and from things that sound like humanity. And I think this is a very big challenge for our self-understanding of humanity, and it's not only a case for business cases or a case for research or something that changes our everyday practices, but also our understanding of our shape as human beings in the future. And that could be a good story and could be a bad story. I think the hint to agency is very, very important. It's not a fate. It's nothing which works by its own. We are able to cope with this and to do something, but the question is what to do with it.
Exactly. Now picking up there, I started off saying that AI is this enabling technology, and with that, you need to go full stack, need to be disruptive for really to unfold its full value. It seems like, and there's been discussion here about that, especially in Germany, but also in Europe, as opposed to other parts of our planet, that we wanted to get AI, but kind of in a homeopathic dose here or there, and hope that tiny changes are also going to do the trick. But I guess when we see worldwide competition, we will see that only if we go all in, and when AI will go all in, that it will unfold much more of value. Now, if you go back historically, it seems like whenever you have a general technology, which is very powerful at the same time, that leads to societal change. Right? Take the steam engine, for instance, right? Leading to industrial revolution, and with that to a new society. And here I find it interesting, correct me if I'm wrong, that we are now also seeing a transition from an information society where we've just been bombarded with individual facts or what people assume to be facts, over to a knowledge society where we have personal, actionable knowledge, which is accessible and cheap for everybody, and in that case changing the way that we actually deal with this information.
The difference between information and knowledge could be that information is something that we can recombine by ourselves. It's very well, it's a technology. The classical digital technology is about information. It's about the ability to bring informations together which are not near together, which are informations which have to be recombined. And now the recombination is itself a technological event, if you can say it in these words. And so those who produced knowledge were human beings before, and now we have something that seems to be knowledge which comes from a technological device. And I wouldn't compare this with a steam engine, but with a letterpress, with Buchdruck in German, because the letterpress did not only invent books, it did not only invent informations, but also invented what we call the modern form of subjectivity. That means that we invent authors. The author is something who was able to bring forward the idea that everything which has meaning in the world stems from our own action and our own agency. And this changed the world really revolutionary because now if you face authors, you can see that the author is responsible for the meaning we face in the world. Before it was the history or God or the history of healing or something like that. And now it is the author itself. And now we have a new player in this game. And the new player in this game is a technology which also is able to challenge us as someone, I would say, as someone, not only something, as someone who is able to change our own reflection and our own relation to the world. And this is, of course, new. And you said we should be afraid of the unknown. I think we should be afraid of the known, because we know that there is something which changes very revolutionary, and we don't have the tools until now to cope with this in a productive way. I'm a university teacher, and as a university teacher, I see that the origin of texts is something that has to be invented in a new way. In former times, we read the papers of our other students, and then we had an own one. Now we can produce them by using a machine, and the question is, how can we learn to produce texts when there is something which is much more mighty than we are to produce these texts? And this will change something that we called here the Menschsein.
Absolutely. Now, when we previously had content creation and looked at where value came from, it was mostly the content creators. Now you just on the sideline mentioned that there's a new actor in there, technology in that case, and with that, companies behind technology. What we seem to see these days, if you just, we're here, media, in media business, we look at, for instance, the ad market, which recently crossed $1 trillion a year. In previous years, it was mostly content providers who were actually creating the value. It now seems like value creation, or who takes the value out of that, is shifting more and more to those that transport this information, not so much the ones that actually feed in new content. And with that, there's evidently also shifts that the minister mentioned early on, and certain risks that come with that. Risks that legitimation is going to change in this particular case, right? If we're not adhering to sovereignty in this powerful technology, that from an age where we beforehand had democratic consent as the legitimation, and that the sheer capacity that you're having and the capabilities in that case legitimize the corresponding actors. And that actually will then also lead to societal changes if we are not having, in that case, sovereignty with this technology.
Yes, of course. The question is who will be the gatekeepers for for structuring the information flows in society. Before that, there were the intellectuals, the elites, the universities, and something like a deliberative forms of public sphere. And now it becomes to be something that is technological by itself, and that's the change, I think. But you were talking also Markus Blume talked about risks. Yes, we differ between risks and dangers. Dangers are things that are fates. Yes, and risks. With risks, we bring together the idea of agency. We can do something, and we have to do risky things to bring things into being. That means we cannot look at the tradition and say we have to have the same idea of producing information and knowledge and research and something like that as we were doing in the last 250 years. There are not only new technologies but also new actors who are able to bring us more capacity to do things. And I think we should talk about these actors. These actors have a new form of power. It's also in the history of modern society. You can see that the actors who were those who controlled steel and oil technology were those who were able to bring forth a world structure, and now it's information and knowledge. First of all, it's information and the recombination machines who are able to simulate a knowledge which seems to be, without alternative. And the question is, how can we produce alternatives to these forms which would seem to be, a knowledge which is more objective than before, and that's very paradoxical diagnosis, I think.
So this is very important to me, because I believe, first off, we have agency, and there are different sort of paths unfolding simultaneously, which is very important, because in that case we still have certain opportunities. It is not this fate that we're looking at. What I've seen over the last couple of years as AI was unfolding, there was first off a certain lack or here or there over amplification of the disruptive changes that we were seeing in society. There was here or there seemed to be, especially on this continent, the hope that we could just dug our heads, wait, and then this is all going to be over. But with the technology, which is disruptive and at the same time globally developed, it's clear that it will spill over, whatever we're doing. A second approach seemed to be that we hope that with certain regulation, we can create a powerful technology which is at the same time, by design, misuse-proof. I believe that this is a mirage. It would be great to get something like that, but you will always see a certain trade-off there. And if we embrace that, if we want to have the full value of this technology, or somewhere else on this planet, and it will go full stack, that will have certain consequences. And with that comes my point there of agency. I have seen too much either or. I think that this new technology of AI that we have here will be, on the one hand, the catalyst for societal progress, information to knowledge society, which I mentioned early on, but at the same time also the roadblock to that. The propellant into a new society where we can democratize the access to knowledge, which will enable us to do much more productivity and so on. But at the same time, we see this with AI slop. We see this with engagement hacks, and we see this with AI merely being used to here or there optimize business processes and think that that is the most that we can get. So essentially, reactionary movements which eventually go back. And my take on that is we will see both unfolding at the same time. And those actors who just say like it's one or the other, that's a delusion. We will see both at the same time, but it is our call here to either control this technology, become sovereign, or we're going to be controlled by it and the actors wherever they are on this globe who control this technology.
I think this is a problem we also faced in the last generations. Regulation always means that we regulate something because we think that the self-dynamics of these things could bring forth dangers and risks on the one hand, and on the other hand, too much regulation means that we are not able to bring forth the capacities and the chances in these technologies. This was also true for the classical industrial society. It was also true for societies in which entrepreneurship is something that has to be risky, more risky than the rest of society. And that's the same we have now, but we have other forms of, or other types of actors in this game. And well, it's
external and internal.
Yes, of course. And so I think in politically seen, it's very important to talk about autonomy. And what does autonomy mean? The autonomy of Europe, the autonomy of the Western Hemisphere in difference to other actors in the world, autonomy in shaping some new forms of technologies. Autonomy always is a very interesting narrative. Yes, this narrative means that we have to believe in this autonomy, although we don't have it, to bring something forward in different fields of society. It's the one point. The other point is that, and now I'm speaking as a sociologist, that social structures and social systems are more inert than we believe. Yes, in this area here, the types of people who are sitting here, we are always beloved in saying that things will change and we are able to do everything and we have agency and we will change the world, not this morning, but in the evening and tonight. But we always repeat all these sentences, but the practice of society is more inert than we think. We see that problems come. Well, it's a repetition of problems and challenges, and I think we have to face that society can speak about change much better than to do these changes. And the title of this dialogue is that the one is faster than the other, and it's very interesting to do something with this relationship.
Yeah, so consequence of that relationship will probably be that it's going to be wild when we have these two different speeds coming together. But at the same time, there's this sub-motto that we're having for these 3 days, and that is you better be prepared in that particular case. Now, if I look at this technology and we would not be prepared, then I definitely see different speeds unfold in society, like the ones who profit and shape this technology, the ones who eventually will adopt it, and the ones that are bystanders in that case. And if we would have something like that, it's clear that there will be reciprocal movements in a society, counter movements there. And the question would be, how can we actually make sure that at the end of the day in a society we have as broad as a participation in the new values that we're creating? Because at the outset, this technology has the new opportunity to actually democratize access to things which used to be very precious beforehand, such as knowledge.
Well, maybe the most important challenge is, Markus Blume, you know what I'm talking about, to create majorities in the democratic sphere. And that seems to be only a formula, but it's the main point in these societies. Will these changes in different areas of society will be a risk for shaping these majorities inside of the democratic sphere? How can we save democratic systems with this fast changes? And it's not the first time in which revolutionary changes in society were a risk and a danger for democratic procedures and democratic structures. And so we should have agency for that, but also a little bit hope, and it's going to be wild to think about this hope.
And it is clear that we need to be in control of that technology, adhere, in that case, sovereignty, have a certain understanding of what's going on in order to get the agency that we need.
Of course.
So with that, I guess we need to thank you all, and looking forward to the rest of the conference.